So for this project, I'm using this Hello Kitty sweater. You can see it's super cute, nice and fluffy. I actually got this all vintage for about £5, and I believe it's for like a 6 or 7-year-old. And then I'm using this handbag. It's like a box clutch. I think it's really perfect for this project. And I got it in Primark a few years ago, and I've used it like twice. So guilty, need to use it more. And it's got a little handle, and then it's got like a long strap which you can hook on each side. So first of all, I wanted to just cover up this grey with some like acrylic gesso. This is like just really thick white paint. You can use a hairdryer to make it dry quicker as well. I think I just didn't bother and did a couple of layers. I mainly did it on the front face, the back face, and then the handle, just because the jumper is like quite kind of sheer almost, so you can see the dark grey through it a bit because it's such a light colour. So you might not have to do this, kind of depends on what material you decide to use on your bag, but it might just be a good idea. I kind of regret not doing the entire bag, but I was just being a bit impatient and I like the instant hit of dopamine. So yeah, here is how it was looking. Then I grabbed my sweater, and you want to use a seam ripper if possible, or you can use scissors to kind of take apart your jumper or sweater that you're using. And I really like this, it said Hello Kitty on the sleeve, so I'm going to actually use this as well. Another seam ripper, it's really sharp in this middle bit here, so you need to be quite careful, and you simply like put this either side of your seam and then rip it basically. It can be kind of time consuming, but the more you do it, the kind of quicker you can get at it. And these are like all of the bits I got, so it's actually quite a lot of fabric, and I still have some left over. So I'm starting with the back of the bag, and I'm using the back of the sweater as well. And I've got this big piece, so it's perfect, it's going to cover it all, and I'm using this fabric glue. So for the fabric glue I'm using, it says to spread it all over both sides, so I'm spreading it over the bag using a paintbrush as it's just easier. So I'm making sure to go all the way up to the kind of that gold edge and doing all the sides and the back. Then I grabbed the fabric, the back of the sweater that I'd cut out, and also spreading the glue on that, and it really helps having a brush or something to kind of get it in all of the fabric bits, especially as this is like a fluffy kind of jumper. And just to know, I've got the sweater kind of the way around it would have been worn, so the neckline is at the top, so that the fabric will go in like the same direction when I put the front on. And then I simply like placed the bag on it and like wrapped it around, so it's almost like a present. Then I left that to dry, I think overnight, and here is how it was looking. And then I could see if I needed to add some extra glue in places, and also this is where I'm going to start to glue the corners and also trim down the fabric. So I grabbed my scissors and carefully went around the whole edge until I was happy with it. So I went up to kind of almost the gold trimming on the bag, and made sure that I didn't like cut too much off. So just do this with some care. If you're going to do this project, let me know in the comments, and also let me know what kind of material or even like say fluffy jumper you're going to recycle to do this. I'd love to know. Now for the corners, I obviously use fabric glue again, so I put this on both sides, and I glued the top corners down slightly differently to the bottom corners, so I made sure to cover it all in glue. And for the top ones, I sort of like tucked it in on itself like so kind of tucking it in and pressing it down, and I did that for the both of the corners at the top. And then for the bottom ones, I kind of just folded it up as if it basically is kind of a present, and then you can trim off any excess fabric that you don't think you need as well. And that was basically the back done, except I did make a mistake. I needed to cut a slit and pull the hook things out so that a long handle can be attached. So I had to kind of re-glue that fabric around it back down, but it wasn't too much of a big deal. So you can see they're poking out there, and I just re-glued it. And then it was time to move on to the front. Now we get to the exciting part, putting Hello Kitty's face onto the bag. So I wanted to swap the bows. I prefer Hello Kitty with a pink bow. What do you prefer her with, a pink or a red one? And I had this hot water bottle, so I thought I'm going to actually take the bow from this and put it onto the bag, and then I'll just put the red one onto the hot water bottle. So I grabbed my seam ripper and I took both of the bows off. Taking it off the hot water bottle, I felt really guilty, but I think if I'd taken one off a plushie, I probably would have cried. That just seems like a crime. So I think this was my like best next option, taking it off of this hot water bottle. So yep, just using my seam ripper. I think this one was actually glued and I kind of ripped it as well, and then eventually it came free. So how cute does this look with the pink bow? Oh my gosh, I'm so happy with it. And again, using my trusty fabric glue. If this doesn't work, you can also use a safety pin or something like that as well to attach it onto the sweater, or bag front as it is going to be soon. So after I got over debowing Hello Kitty, I did the same thing and I put glue all over the bag, and then I put fabric glue on the back of the Hello Kitty face fabric. And this time I actually placed the face onto the bag so I could position it correctly. The back doesn't matter as much because it was just plain. So I played around with the positioning until I was happy. And again, I think I left this for a few hours. And as I did with the back, I got my scissors out and trimmed off any excess fabric. So it's looking so good. I'm so pleased with this. It's so cute. And for the front of the bag, I just pushed the excess fabric up for the bottom and down for the top, again using fabric glue. And once it was ready to be all stuck down, I just pushed it all down together, again similarly like a present. So just pressing it down. I think I held this for a little bit as well, just to make sure it's stuck in the correct place. Then it was time to move on to the handle. So I'm going to use this fabric where it says Hello Kitty on it. I thought this is such a nice touch. I'm really pleased that it had this on the sleeve. So I went ahead using a kind of a fabric tape measure, and I measured out the handle. So I measured the length and I measured the width, and I think I added on maybe about 2 or 3 centimeters so that I would have enough room to wrap this fabric around the handle. So I made sure that the Hello Kitty writing was in the center, and I kind of marked that out, and then I marked out the rest of the measurement. So I think that the handle was about 18 centimeters, and I think I did around 20 centimeters overall. So yeah, adding around 2 centimeters extra on the length. And then for the width, I think this was only about 1 centimeter or so, and I cut extra just so I had more to play with. So yeah, just cut it extra because obviously all of this is done by kind of measurements and eye in a way. Whereas usually when you do sewing and things or using fabric, you have patterns, but yeah, we're just kind of winging this. So once I had cut that out, I used my fabric glue again and I put this on the handle. I couldn't really detach this handle. If I could, it might have made it a little bit easier, but to be honest, it wasn't actually too bad. I was just quite careful and I wiped off any glue that I got elsewhere, and I use this like glue bottle just to prop it up to stop it from falling on the other fabric. And again, put in the fabric glue all over the piece of fabric I'm using to cover the handle with. So once that was ready to be stuck down, I placed the fabric onto the handle very carefully, making sure kind of the Hello Kitty writing was in the center, and then essentially I just like wrapped it around, and then I added any extra glue where I think it needed it. And then for these edges, I basically like poked it through this gap. So you can see there's like a little gap, so it goes through the golden, I don't know the names of the terms of these things, the golden hoop thingies. So just adding some extra glue. And then I used my tweezers just to poke the fabric through. So it's not a very thick fabric, so it's easy to kind of poke through holes and things. It's not like too stiff or anything. So yeah, that is basically how I did the handle. I hope that is clear and you can kind of see what I'm doing in the video. And yeah, I also have this long gold chain. I decided not to use the one it came with. I think it would have been quite a hassle to try and cover it, and my fabric wasn't long enough. And I use that to clip into the left and right sides of the bag if I want to use it as a shoulder bag. So here is the final handbag. I absolutely love the Hello Kitty on the handle, and I just think it's so cute. So let me know what you think of this. Did you enjoy this video? Leave a comment below and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye!